everybody. Welcome to this episode of What's New from IBM. I'm your host, as always, PJ Haggerty, and today we're talking to Rob Stanich, Principal Product Manager, watsonx.ai, Foundation Models, and Strategic Partnerships. Rob, tell us a little bit about what's new and the latest from what foundation models are working with Granite and what's going on.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting week we have coming up. We recently pushed the new Llama 4 models, and they're coming to on-premise in the next release, which is August. And this week we put Granite 3.3 8B, which is our workhorse IBM-grown Granite model in the Frankfurt data center. And we have some exciting new features coming up in the next week or so. So that's going to be a Granite speech model, an update to a Granite vision model, and we also have LoRa and QLoRa tuning coming to SaaS, as well as our AI model gateway, which is something that's going to allow IBM customers to access third-party LLM providers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. So.
Yeah, and I know that there's tons of features coming out. There's a lot going on. I know that I don't know if we can sneak peek it. I know that there's like a Granite 4 thing coming out. I know the tiny version is on.
We can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
The tiny preview is out. Granite 4 is a all new mixture of experts hybrid architecture. So it's like a mix of transformers and Mamba architecture. It also uses a new technique, which is no positional encoding, or NOPE framework, and that allows like a very, very long context. And so I think that team is currently tested up to about 128K. And we also saw the Llama team adopt a very similar approach that was, had been published by members of the Granite team in Llama 4, and they were getting extremely long contexts if you have enough GPU in the 1 million to 10 million context range. But, in a typical type of node that, normal enterprises have, you can get maybe up to about 3.5 million context on those models. If you're at Meta and everybody has a supercomputer on their desk with 200 GPUs in it, sure, you can get, 10 million context.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we don't all have access to those kinds of resources.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we wanted to talk about was when it comes to AI, like the foundation models are a major part of it. So where do foundation models kind of fit into the picture?
Yeah, I've got an interesting point of view on that, like given that it says foundation models in my title. But of course, I mean, the transformer is like the fundamental innovation that is driving this technology wave, which I don't have to put a name on it. Everybody knows. But I think our customers actually, look, they're happy to talk about the models and like the gossip and talk about the lab wars and one lab scooping another. But when they buy, they're really buying on a use case that delivers business value. And so they're interested in the models in that context. In some ways, they're even willing to pay more for premium models, but as part of like a bill of materials that deliver some business value for them. The other, we're all familiar with ChatGPT, right? They started the revolution and the kind of awareness around this. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's not a model, right? It's many models. It's probably some Band-Aids and bubble gum and string,
no doubt.
And routing and speculative decoding and prompt caching and a lot of kind of regular web technologies in order to like deliver a certain experience. And our customers are similarly trying to drive an experience for some customer of theirs, right? So we're selling to builders of AI apps, right? And they're creating their own version of Ask AI or Ask HR, excuse me, or a coding assistant or something to help insurance agents, doctors, financial advisors. So we're really selling to other people who are building AI apps, and we have to think about like beyond the model. So our RAG capabilities, which is the way to basically chat with your documents and extract knowledge from a corpus of knowledge. Our evaluation, our agent capabilities, it's our very robust, set of APIs, and it's all the other stuff, right, that an enterprise AI builder needs. It's not just the foundation model,
right?
Although that is key. So.
Right, and it's just kind of like where you start. And in that vein, like how is watsonx.ai working with new foundation models? Like where are the new foundation models coming from?
Yeah, so within IBM, like our favorite model is IBM Granite, and that's actually developed by a team in IBM research, right? So it's not the Watson X team, although we hang out together, we collaborate closely. We're the
Right.
primary
We're
place
we're
where
we're
people can
cousins,
get
not
Granite.
siblings, right?
Yeah,
Cousins,
but you
not
can, but
siblings.
also you can find Granite on AWS and Oracle
Hmm.
Cloud and Hugging Face and Replit and Olama and and other places. And I think that's healthy for IBM. Get it building a big community of developers that are using and benefiting Granite. And
Absolutely.
Granite is it's released under an Apache 2.0 license, which means that the those who take their Granite, so they can own like the fundamental contributions they make when they customize the model. And that's not true when you go to another provider where it's like behind their closed API wall.
Hmm.
When you cancel your subscription to them, like it's gone,
It
right?
disappears. Yep.
Yeah, it disappears. It's not your. It's not. It's not. It was not really yours. It was your turn, right? As they say. So.
I like that. I like that. I like that comparison. It reminds me of early cloud days, when you'd
We
spin
do.
up instances and they'd go away.
We do. So we have. So after IBM Granite, Meta Llama and also Mistral AI are special relationships for watsonx AI, and we do have we're amongst of a select few that have early access to those models. So typically, we'll start getting information a month or two ahead of time. It's very secretive, right?
Right. Right.
Because every lab wants to scoop another lab, or in the case of Meta, they want to make an event out of it and have Zuckerberg do the announcements, and so
Right. Right.
there's only kind of a select people who know about it, and then information starts to come in as we come up to a release date. And so by the time we're there to support a partner on launch day, like we've had the model weights for a few weeks, we've been able to test it, work out most of the kinks, and then we're also there on launch day with our own messaging and to support their messaging and amplify it on social media. And it's really like more of a tight knit group of partnerships, rather than kind of one player, just dominating everything. So
Right.
it's
Right.
it's an
Yeah.
interesting and exciting time.
I know that someone compared it to, a lot of people think that it's toddlers playing soccer, where it's 20 people just following the one ball, but in reality it's just spread all over the field, passing that ball back and forth.
Yeah, and like look and like most of life, when we look back on this period in like business history and technology period, there'll be some kind of like more cohesive narrative about like what happened. But right now, in the sort of like the fog of war when you're living in it, it's hard to tell what the outcome is going to be, right? Like,
Exactly.
is who's going to win? Is there going to be a winner? And every company hopes that for themselves, and thinks that they have some advantage in it. But I think like everything else, you and I both probably lived through like the .com era. A lot of businesses failed and weren't ultimately successful, but in the end, we did get great things, out of
Absolutely.
it, right? It
Absolutely.
wasn't just Pets.com that was the winner. They didn't end up the winner. Although I think Amazon and Chewy and others who sell dog food today are doing just fine.
Oh yeah, definitely leveraging that like, and I think it's, what do you see as a win? What do you see as success? Like, when the bubble happens, like, well, we're still cruising along, so that's success. And if others build on that success, even better. Speaking of which, building on things, like, how long does it take when it comes to developing with new foundation models? How long does it take to like develop and leverage that? Like, how long does Granite take to like incorporate new foundation models?
Yeah, again, I'm not the model builder.
Right. Right. Right.
I won't name them because I didn't clear it with them ahead of time. Like we were going to talk about them,
And we do
but
have rules.
yes, but also it's interesting because the pace of innovation is so fast, right? Whether that's the Granite team or that's the Mistral AI team, the models come out so quickly and are updated so quickly. It's actually much faster than some customers can actually absorb the change.
Mhm.
So if we start our journey with a new Llama release, let's say Llama 3.0, by the time a traditional IT application lifecycle has done all of its build, done all of its testing, user acceptance testing, and gone to production, there's already a Llama 2, 3.1 or 3.2 that has audio or video or some new capability, and it's actually causes some business challenges where we have to like balance the customers' desires to move to the latest version of a model and have access to that model immediately, with their sort of contradictory desire for us to keep the model around forever. And of course, GPU is very expensive, and managing the infrastructure is very expensive, and particularly in our SaaS, our on-premise customers can use their own GPU, but particularly in our SaaS, we're trying to manage that infrastructure as efficiently as possible, and we strongly prefer to be on the latest, greatest version of a model, and frankly, customers are going to get better results on a later version of the model. But yeah, there's I guess there's fast train organizations, and there's organizations that want to be on the slow train. And recently we've introduced what we call on demand, which is sort of like a dedicated endpoint in SaaS. So if a customer wants to run a fine tune, and like I said, LoRa tuning is going to production as we speak, or they want to run a model that we don't want to offer in multi-tenant because it's not popular enough, or they want to stay on Llama 3.0 indefinitely, they have that option, and they can have a sort of a dedicated pay by the hour type endpoint instead of paying by the token. So,
right. Yeah. So I mean, in some ways, it's almost like in the early days of cloud, I remember a lot of people were using Ruby and Python. And at some point, Ruby was like, listen, we can't keep doing 1.89 or 1.86. We've got to move to 2. And if you're not going to use 2, that's fine. We get it. We're coming out with these versions pretty quickly. And the same, Python 2 to Python 3. It's like, listen, we know it's a big change. We don't expect everybody to jump on it right away. I think we need to have that same understanding with versions of LLMs and versions of models.
Yeah, I would love to become like world class at getting our customers to be able to do these upgrades, but we're still learning, and we've recently changed our policies around deprecating models to be a little bit more customer friendly. There's still challenges, and again, we're still learning. But if we could find a way to make it easy for customers to make those upgrades, I think that would set us up and our customers up for success. I mean, no one talks about Llama 2 anymore.
No,
right?
No.
And they're off working on Llama 5, 6, and 7, likely at this point. So.
Right. Probably before the end of the year. Which brings us to the big question on a show called What's New. What can we expect coming up for the future of foundation models and Granite and everything that's going on with your team?
So we recently released Mistral Medium 3, right, which is the newest version of their flagship model. It had previously been called Large, but by implication, maybe something larger is coming. If what used to be large is now called medium,
there's always a bigger fish.
Yeah, and that is a model with excellent stats that basically can go head to head with many of Anthropic's models, which are known for coding benchmarks. Its vision capabilities are the best that I've seen in any model. It actually tackles my hardest use case for vision models, which I'll keep secret, but it's the first one to really
okay. Well, I'm going to ask you about that after the show.
Yeah, and then we have some surprises coming up, which we can't talk about because of embargoes and what have you. But have me back in a week or two, and we'll have something new and exciting to talk about too.
That sounds great. Rob, thanks so much for your time, and thanks for sharing with us everything that you know and everything that's what's new. Hopefully, like you said, we'll get you back in just a couple weeks. And for everyone listening, thanks so much for being part of the show, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks for having me on.